Welcome back, Spokane, to another episode of EvoReal Talks. I am your host, Jessica Side, and I'm with my co-host, Matthew Side.
Hello. Matthew? I feel like I'm in trouble. That's what my mom calls me.
Sometimes I call you Matthew as a term of endearment.
That's fair.
Sometimes you get in trouble, though. We are still talking about Airbnbs. We've been on this now. This is, I think, week 4 of this, and we probably have this week and at least one more week after this. It is important for us that we kind of download all the stuff. And we did get a question this week. We love getting questions.
Question time. I feel like, never mind. There was a cartoon when I was a kid about the mailbox.
Oh.
Anyway, maybe it was when my kids were kids.
It's
Noodle Man. Remember Noodle Man that would go get the mailbox? It's like, mail time, mail time. Okay. Yeah, we'll move on.
It's mail time, everyone. The question was this. Are people stealing any of those special touches you have added to the unit? Would management necessarily notice?
Oh, snap.
So let's just talk about risk management when it comes to this kind of stuff. So certainly there are things that I have put in there that, or that we have put in there that are more expensive, right? So maybe more expensive than we would normally do it because we want to use this unit. That's one of the things we'll talk about next week is what kind of owners are we? Mm-hmm. Well, I'll give you a little sneak hint here. We are going to hopefully use this unit as well as other people. So we want it to be something that we feel really comfortable in and it feels nice for our family. So some of the things we put in there are probably a little more expensive than someone who is a professional, right? We talked about the professionals that own a bunch of these would put into their units. So it's hard when you think about some of the special touches that you put in there potentially getting taken away. And I think of it as some people might be stealing, some people might just do it inadvertently, right? Like if there's a USB cord in there for use, someone could think, that's our USB cord, and they could put it in their bag, right? Those are the kinds of things. What we've determined is we are asking our housekeeper, so when we talk about management in this particular situation, they're the ones that are the eyes on the place every single week. We're asking them to look for some larger things, some things that would be obvious that they were gone. So we're going to talk about this more next week, but we've got these little USB outlet hubs that sit next to each bed. And those are things that they're a little bit more expensive. And if they're gone, it'll be frustrating for the next person. So we have asked our housekeepers to keep an eye on those things.
And I don't know that they would catch that. I mean,
right.
they're cleaning dozens of units.
Sure.
Sometimes a day.
Yeah. And so, and to watch the levels of things like dishes and stuff like that. What we have determined is that missing stuff is the cost of doing business, because what we don't want to do is become these incredibly nitpicky owners that we notice something. Well, what if we noticed it and it happened a few weeks ago and now we've just noticed it and now we're going to accuse one of our clients, right? One of our guests of taking something when maybe they didn't take it. Maybe somebody else took it. So we're kind of trying to be careful about that. If there was something large, and I'm trying to think of what that would be.
Well, if a TV went missing.
There you go.
We'd have a problem with that.
We'd have a problem with that, and we'd have to, and it would be pretty obvious. But the rest of it, we've kind of just said, it's the cost of doing business. We're not going to, inventory after every single.
Some towels will probably go missing periodically, and dishes, when you talk about stocking the unit, we stocked it, and then we bought extra of most things, knowing that, my mom was going to break a glass the very first time anyone ever stayed in the condo.
Yeah, and so we're going to have extra glasses, and we're not going to charge people for those types of things, because those are accidents that happen.
We did charge my mom, though, didn't we?
Shut up.
I'm kidding.
He did not.
I'm kidding about the charge. I'm not kidding about the fact that one of the glasses broke.
Yes, that's true.
Day one.
So I hope that answers your question. I think you can't leave it up to, if you have someone else managing the place, I think you can leave it up to them for all the inventory.
Well, we're going to also talk about video, right? Like having video on your exterior in and out. Like if a TV did go missing,
yes.
having video of like somebody moving the TV out.
Let's be really clear, since you've brought this up. We would never have a video that would be inside or that would face the inside. These would just be exterior
door views
of the property so that you can see people coming in and out.
Kind of like your Ring doorbell, if you will.
Yeah, that type of thing. So just to be really clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Clarity is important.
Yes. Okay. So I think that answers that question to the best of our ability at this moment in time. And so I'm going to swing it over to Matt.
The last thing I will say on that, it's, in my mind, it is no different than when we had our primary residence that we made a rental property. Like, we both had to get over the fact that somebody wasn't going to be as nice to our house as us living there. And I think if you're going to rent your place out on a nightly rental and it's a place that's special to you, you're going to just have to get over it.
Yeah,
a little bit. Like, people are going to take stuff. Things are going to get broken. Hopefully it's not the really expensive stuff.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about some of that today, because we're going to talk about platforms and some of the protections even that the platforms have. So that's a good segue.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so platform setup.
Tell me more.
Okay, so the one thing I need to identify as the very top of this is that this is not a walk through how to set everything up on Airbnb. Like, if you want that detail, just go into YouTube and search setting up my Airbnb for the first time, and there'll be dozens of people that did like actually set stuff up on the screen with their little picture in there as they go, and that might be helpful too. I mean, I watched a couple of those. But we are going to talk about the two major platforms, major players in the world of nightly rental, and kind of the pros and cons and the things that we like or don't like about them, and just maybe some tips on what I feel like are the most important pieces when you're setting up your nightly rental. So let's talk about Airbnb is one of the more popular ones. So let's just give you a little bit of history. I know we haven't done history in a long time, and history lessons are important to you. Mm-hmm. Late 2007 in San Francisco, Airbnb founders Brian Chesky.
Wait, what year?
2007.
Okay.
Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia, probably killed that name, just moved from New York. Without employment, they were having trouble paying their rent and were looking for a way to earn some extra cash.
Okay.
They noticed that all the hotel rooms in the city were booked, as the local industrial design conference attracted a lot of visitors. That was the birth of Airbnb, and that's the bed and breakfast. They literally named it that because they had people on air mattresses in their house, bed and breakfast. So
right, and they're actually at the beginning, people were actually feeding the other person breakfast. Like, you're sharing breakfast together. Yeah, which I can't even imagine wanting to do that. But
so that was the birth of Airbnb, 2007. I will just kind of high level for Airbnb. Seems like it is a host favorite. I hear a lot of hosts out there that love on Airbnb. They have some great guest verification and host protections that are just kind of built into their platform. Like, you can tell, for an instant book, as an example, with Airbnb, you can say, I want Airbnb to have verified their ID, have email and phone verification. So those are those things are all valid. Okay. So and they do that when you sign up for Airbnb. So hold on,
there's two types of things. You can either instant book or you can request to book, basically, right? And so they try to create something so people
the platforms love the instant book because the guests love the instant book, because think about it, how irritating is it for you to try and plan your trip and have to wait for a host to get back to you to say yes or no if you can stay there.
Correct.
So they create incentive around the instant book. Airbnb has done an excellent job of, to the best of their ability, saying, we're going to verify that there's valid government ID. You actually have to take a picture of it when you're signing up. Like, you don't have to, but it would say not verified.
Right.
So, and same with email, they're going to make you verify that that was a legitimate email by putting a code into the application.
So basically, they've given the guests what they want, which is instant gratification on being able to book the place, and they've given the owners what they want, which is a little bit of protection.
We prefer to be called hosts.
What'd I say?
Owners.
Oh, hosts. The hosts, a little more protection to say, hey, we've verified these things for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that's exactly it.
Perfect.
They also have, and they enhanced it a little bit this last winter of 2021, So there's $1 million in liability protection that Airbnb just automatically offers to all their hosts. $1 million in damage protection that it offers to all of its hosts. You can opt to have, I think that $1 million can include pet damage, like if you allow for pets in there. So there's a lot of little features like that add on, again, extra confidence. That if I have a dispute with a guest, and this is also comes back to, we're going to talk about house rules, like how specific your rules are, and having some video stuff if people are breaking rules, again, not inside of a unit. But so the other thing that hosts really like about Airbnb is that their fees are lower than the other platform.
Right, the fees to
the host. 3% at this current time of recording, and that will absolutely surely change at some point in the future, so don't hold me to that. And interestingly enough, and this is not necessarily good or bad, it just tends to be true, that most of the users of Airbnb are younger, so they kind of tend to be that millennial generation and younger. For whatever reason, the kind of interface is just kind of attractive to them. So that's just kind of high level on Airbnb. The other major platform, so there really are, in my mind, are two major platforms, the Airbnb and then VRBO / HomeAway.
Okay.
So let's just talk about these guys. They have a little bit more of a history.
When you say / HomeAway, you mean they are...
I'll tell you. Don't ask questions ahead of time.
Okay.
All right, so in 1995 is when VRBO launched.
Oh, wow. That's a long time before.
Yeah.
That's 12 years before they went.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. An American vacation rental online marketplace originally known as Vacation Rentals by Owner, or VRBO. It was acquired by HomeAway in 2006. Expedia Group acquired HomeAway on December 15th of 2015. And then on March 27, 2019, VRBO was rebranded as Verbo. Which for those of us that have been using the platform forever is just super irritating.
It is.
Oh, for God's sake, Verbo. What does that even mean? Which included new logos, capitalization, and pronunciation. In July 2020, HomeAway and Verbo websites became a single Verbo website. So there used to be two websites. Okay. So we were, for our own personal life, like we found Vacation Rental by Owner, and even after it became a HomeAway, like you could. Other people knew HomeAway separate from VRBO, merged together. Now it's all in. Actually, so pretty recently, 2020 became one website on Verbo.
Got it.
Not as host friendly, just from my own perception and what I've heard of other people. It does not offer the same amount of guest verification. They kind of come from a more hotel based world, and it makes sense that Expedia owns them.
They're going to think differently.
They're going to think differently. Like they don't have identification verification of any kind. So it kind of puts it back on us as the host to try and figure out how are we going to verify the guest's identity.
Right.
Like our very first guest that offered or wanted to book through VRBO, we weren't sure what to do. So we were asking for ID before we even approved the stay, and he was kind of okay with that, and then all of a sudden he's like, who are you people? Like, you're brand new on the platform. Why am I sending you a copy of my ID? I think I'll just peace out. And, so we lost several $100s worth of, income on that particular stay.
Right.
So we've changed kind of our procedure, and I won't say that it's perfect, and I don't even know where it will end up landing.
Right.
But at this point, we've determined that we're going to get them booked, and then as part of our house rules... Well, they don't call them... Well, house rules, yes, and then they have a rental agreement in the Verbo platform that we'll talk about. Anyway, so they have a very small standard set of yes or no questions in your house rules. Is there smoking? Are there pets? Those type of things. Okay. And then you can customize 3 other house rules.
Whoa, that's it. Wow.
Whereas in the Airbnb world,
you can just
it's a house rule document, and it could be miles long.
Yeah.
Now, they all allow you to have a rental agreement, which would, like how we've approached it, is that, okay, our rental agreement is going to go into more detail as to what the rules are of being in this property.
Okay.
They do offer security deposits. So both platforms have security deposits.
Okay.
Airbnb charges that security deposit for them in advance.
Okay.
And the VRBO platform or Verbo platform gives them the option of paying that in advance or spending a very small amount of money, non-refundable, to not have to pay that up front and be covered for that.
I see.
So,
okay.
So
it's
for
no
example,
different to the host. It's no different to the host, or do you think it makes a difference to the host?
Well, here's the difference.
Okay.
Is that my security deposit on Verbo is $3,000.
Okay.
But they only have to pay $76 to get that $3,000 protection.
Okay.
And so it's easier for someone to agree. Like I don't think there would be any way that I could get somebody to agree to a $3,000 security deposit
unless
on Airbnb.
You're like the place you have is fantastical.
Right. So for me, I'm like, okay, that's kind of like you can pick $1,500, $3,000, or $4,500 in your security deposit, and then the tiering of what they pay goes up. And so we did have one person that didn't want to pay the fee. They were obviously super confident they were going to break anything, so they, the amount of money they sent over was thousands and thousands of dollars that VRBO will refund to them if we don't dispute anything after their stay.
Right.
So just kind of some of those nuanced differences.
And we haven't had to use the security deposit at all so far, correct?
Not at all, no.
Again,
we're pretty new in this. Only a few months.
We're very new. So I have no doubt that in the next year we will have to deal with something like that. But it is there, which is nice.
The other thing back to that original question that we have done is we've been up there semi-consistently here at the beginning. So, we've been 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 times in a 2-month period that we've had our eyes on stuff. So
it's helpful.
It is helpful, which is also nice about having the location closer to where you are.
Yes.
Because if this was in Florida, we for sure wouldn't have that.
Nope. We would have to have a better hands-on
person
on
somebody
on
like
the
that.
ground.
Costs of Verbo to the host is different and not as attractive. It is 8%, which is over 3 times. It's like not quite. No, not over times. It's almost 3 times.
Math.
Math sometimes is hard on the fly. They used to have, and when I originally was researching it, all of the data out there comparing different platforms said that Verbo had this like $500 annual fee and then like a 3% or some sort of lower percentage.
But they don't
have that anymore. They've grandfathered certain people in. So anyway, that's kind of where it is at this moment, which is why I say it can and probably will change at some point in the future. So figure it out at the time you're doing your investing. Verbo tends to be Gen Xers or baby boomers, a little older, and which totally makes sense to me now when I saw the origin dates of these. Airbnb doesn't even start till 2007, where VRBO launched the year I graduated high school. So that's like
his generation for real.
Yeah, for sure. They were more established.
Sure, yeah.
I know some hosts that have chosen not to do anything on VRBO because they don't like. And I'm sorry, VRBO, I will continue to call you that. It's just kind of habit. So, all right, let's talk about platform setup. So those are the 2 major platforms. I will say the setup is different in interface, and that's where maybe a YouTube video where somebody's actually setting it up and clicking on the buttons will help. The general information that you're providing to the platforms is basically the same. There's a couple of little nuances we'll talk about at the end for VRBO.
Yeah.
So here's my overarching advice when you're setting up your property on the platform is to be as detailed as possible in everything that you have. Like, don't leave a blank unfilled if you can avoid it. Even if you have to recraft the same thing you're saying about your property in a different way to fit the different box that's allowing you the information.
Right.
Airbnb might let you have unlimited amount of characters, and VRBO makes you break that same thing up into a couple different categories. So you're going to have to set them up separately, and you're going to have to set the one up that you're most excited about, I think, first is how you should do it, and then take that and put it into the secondary platform.
You know what's funny about that is that it's exactly the way that we think about doing our listings. Like when we are selling a home for a homeowner, one of the things that I tell my brokers is don't leave a bunch of blanks.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go, because that information then pulls over to Zillow, right? And then you're looking at that, and the fewer pieces of information, the less attractive that house is to someone.
Sure, it's an unknown entity.
Yeah.
You're not the Hilton, right? Like, there's not an expectation of what I'm going to get at a Hilton property.
Exactly.
You're some rando out there with a condo or a house somewhere they've never been, or maybe they frequent.
The more information, the better.
Just fill it up.
Yep.
And if you're a poor writer, then pay some English major at the college in town to write some stuff up for you.
Yeah.
I mean, so, all right. So here are my kind of most important. Oh, the other thing I will say about this is revisit the platforms, because even now we've only been doing this a handful of months, and they've made some changes. And so I want to make sure that it's most up to date in how the platform and the options and the new fields that aren't there.
Yeah.
Originally or before. All right, so some of the most important things. Listing details. So photos. I cannot tell you enough. I mean, with our real estate background, we will tell you that it is the photos. And for God's sake, don't just use your iPhone. Like, pay a photographer.
Yeah.
And I will, unless you are a photographer. I have the best camera on the newest iPhone right now, but I don't. It's not just the picture.
Yeah.
It's then the post editing of that picture to make sure that
it's the lighting. It's
all the lighting is right.
The angle. There are certain angles that are better. It's just like, get somebody who knows what they're doing and can make your property the best, because that people are literally buying the pictures.
Well, and especially
they're booking the pictures,
especially when you're brand new and you have no reviews. Mm-hmm. So I would say second only to reviews. And you can't do anything about your reviews other than getting people to stay there and making it a pleasant experience to hopefully get good ones.
Yeah.
A couple of quick thoughts. You're either like an incredible view or pools as the first picture statistically will get you more clicks into your listing and more likely to get people to book you. If you don't have a pool, obviously you can't put it there. Highlight something that is the showpiece of the property. Any thoughts that you have on photos? Because we went back and forth on the order of our photos.
We did kind of go back and forth a little bit. Here's the thing is that I'm always drawn to something really interesting in the picture. And I don't know how to describe that exactly, but I know that, so we visited Italy several years ago, and we were looking for the first place to stay in Rome, and we were doing Airbnb, VRBO, we were looking at both. And I remember seeing this picture where they had a loft bed, like it was the entryway, and you could see into this area, this like dining room area. It's kind of, I know that sounds weird, but it had this big loft bed, and I just thought, oh, our kids are gonna love that.
Yeah.
Like, and it was so different. It's not something I have in my house. If you can get it to look like, wow, this is not something I have in my house, and I don't know exactly. Way. Yeah.
Well, it's like trying to describe the X Factor, right?
Yes.
Simon Cowell always tried to describe that.
He
just knew it. So hopefully you can figure it out.
Find out what the X Factor is for your property. And that might be like, this is a really simple thing. We went to one recently where they had a record player and a collection of records. They didn't have those in the picture, but if they had done a picture of a nice-looking living room with a vinyl and a bunch of records, that would be a little bit of an X factor. Like, it's not something I have at my house. That would be kind of fun. So,
also in the world of photos, a lot of them, the things, all of those amenities, if you can picture the amenities that are there. So, and I can't remember if we did this, honestly, but didn't we like open up cupboards and take pictures that way too, so that we could show people...
And it is really important, obviously saying fully stocked kitchen is one of the things that you can do. In other words, hey, you're going to be able to come here, you're going to be able to cook. You're not just going to be frustrated that you don't have a spatula and a fry pan. But I would say the professionals, okay, because we've kind of differentiated between these. The professionals, they put out all of their, and they don't have as much stuff as what we have in our kitchen, but they put out pots and pans, they put out the knife set, they put that all kind of on the stove and go, here's what you have. We have way too much stuff to do that. That doesn't really make sense for us. But yes, people want to know, what do you have a crock pot? Do you have a rice maker? Do you, these are things that I have ended up like carrying too. Do you have a toaster? And I've actually, because, we're just going to stay in an Airbnb. We're going to be there for a week. We're trying to stay just in the Airbnb, and I want to make good food. So I've ended up taking a bunch of stuff for my kitchen.
Sure.
And if I know it's there, I don't have to take it,
So,
which is lovely.
So I think that's a good tip. And some of the platforms have recently launched like video options. So maybe instead of doing 100 pictures of like doing a quick video walkthrough of the cupboards and things open. But anyway, so doing those kind of things where people can see. Okay, the next thing I will say is in your listing basics is your listing title. Put in the title some of the things that people care about, that especially if they differentiate your property. So not every property is going to have a king bed, so it might seem a little bit silly, but putting the word king bed in your listing title tells them, oh, it's a king bed, and I don't have to dig into this listing. I just know that it's there. So king bed, pool, hot tub. Like our unit is on the ground floor. Some people need ground floor or want ground floor. So we've put that in the title, and now they know that they're not going to have to go upstairs.
Right. Or if you're in a city or something like that, 10 minutes to Subway, or
walking
3
distance
minute walk to Subway.
Yeah, and you're limited on characters, so you're going to have to pick the things that are most important.
Yep.
If you have a seasonal pool, then maybe you put pool in the summertime and change your headline up in the fall.
Yes.
So those kind of things.
Excellent.
Next would be amenities, and I would say list them all. And then go through them again, and then go back to something else you're working on, and then go back to the amenities again. I cannot tell you, I was a month and a half into having my Airbnb listed, and all of a sudden I have this thing that says, do you have a washing machine? Guests would indicate that you do, but it's not selected. I'm like, how in the heck did I miss the washing machine but say that it had a dryer? So just be really detailed in that, and have somebody else look at it.
For sure.
All right, let's go into pricing and availability.
Okay.
And so I've got 5 kind of tips on this. The first thing was you should have comped your pricing from the beginning. So you should know kind of what your goal is when it comes to pricing the property. And, you started maybe high level and said, well, I think I can get this much per month in these different months. Now you're going to have to get into the minutia of like, well, what do I think I can charge for each night?
Right.
I will say this is a really important strategy that has worked out really well for us. Price high for 1 or 2 night stays. We don't even allow 1 night stays, but 1 or 2 night stays, price high. And discount for multiple night stays to get longer stays and less work turning your property over. So, for example, if $500 was your goal per night, then maybe you list it at $620, and then offer a 20% discount if they do 4 nights or more. Or maybe it's 20% for 4 nights and 25% if they do 7 nights or something like that. You can play around with the analytics, because if they do 4 nights, you get the $500 that you wanted. Right. And then if they do 2 nights, then you just made $120 a night more, and it's because it's more work. So
right. Whenever somebody takes just 2 nights, right, it makes it hard, because then maybe someone picks over here too, and then
you lost all your weeks.
In the middle.
You lost your weeks.
Yeah.
Timing. Let's talk about timing. So, like, when should you start reducing your prices? So, large properties, 10 or more people, these really should be filling up 45 to 30 days in advance, because large groups aren't going to make like a decision to go out on a big vacation in the next 2 weeks. For smaller properties that are under 10, you should start thinking about price reductions. Like, these should start getting filled up within about 2 weeks of the date.
Okay.
So if they're not filling up, then you need to start thinking about dropping pricing to encourage people to do that.
Right.
All right. Number 4 is reviewing your pricing multiple times a week. Some people are probably like detailed enough and have enough space that they're going to just do that every single morning. But I would say at least 2 or 3 times a week, you should be revisiting your pricing, seeing what's open, dropping prices as it gets closer, those type of things. The other thing that you need to do is know your high demand. So number 5, know your high demand weekends or weeks and price them accordingly. In Leavenworth, Christmas is going to be significantly higher than spring break.
Right.
Weekends are going to be priced higher than weekdays. So, for example, what's the spring break for the markets that are going to your area? Like, the month of March in Leavenworth is going to be pretty low, but if you go look at my listing, I have it higher on the week that Spokane is in spring break, and then the next week or 2 weeks later, Seattle's in spring break. So Seattle has a winter break in January for an entire week. So since we're 30 minutes from a ski hill, I'm like, well, if somebody wants to take the week and go skiing, then the demand is going to go up, and therefore the price is going to go up.
I think here's the deal. I think that we're going to do more on pricing because I want to talk even more about holidays and things like that and special events that are coming up. So next week we will get into that. We've got lots more for you on Airbnbs. Thank you so much for being here, Spokane. If you have any questions about real estate in Spokane, please give us
on our Airbnb stuff.
Or on our Airbnb stuff, absolutely. Reach out to us. 509-62-HOUSE is the telephone number. You can reach out to us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram and all the places. And of course, you can send us an email at ask@everreal.com. Thank you very much for being here. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.